to Prose and Politics with me, the political poet, Jamia Zarzuela. And on today's episode, I'll be bringing out a psychologist so that we can get their opinion on how the I am statement affects the brain. Dr. Gabriel Crenshaw is a licensed clinical psychologist in the Los Angeles area, and he provides therapy to individuals, groups, and families to treat depression, anxiety, and more. He has appeared on many TV and radio talk shows where he shares the most up-to-date information on mental health matters. In addition to being a skilled therapist, he is an experienced forensic psychologist, keynote speaker, and mentor to high school, college, and graduate students such as myself. I've literally known this man since I was in high school, and his history and encouragement is why I sought out higher academia in the first place. The fact that he can be real with me and really break it down is also another reason why I chose him for this podcast episode. So without further ado, let's get to episode 2 of the affirmation series, I Think I Am. This episode is sponsored by Coconut Casual, a Black-owned lifestyle brand focused on positively impacting our globe by promoting female empowerment. It's all love at Coconut Casual. And remember, if it's for us and by us, then support us. But the purpose of this podcast is to really examine the I am statement, an affirmation statement, because so the way that I've defined it, an affirmation statement is something that one tells themselves or declares to be true, something that I believe. But we also know that an affirmation statement can be I Jamia am. It can also be you, Dr. Gabe, saying she, Jamia, is. It can be the world saying you, Jamia, are. And now that I have 2 Black sons in America today, I wonder what I am telling them for them to then one day tell themselves. And we'll get more into that, but I just feel like as a person studying public policy, I feel like a lot of our policies, a lot of American history or world history really is about what we told ourselves about ourselves, what others told us, and what we decided to believe about stereotypes and different things of that nature, and what gets circulated regardless if it's true or not.
Sure.
And so that's the whole purpose of this. I wonder how much of an I am statement and what I tell myself goes into mass media, goes into policy writing, goes into how a person, an individual such as myself or my son, reacts to it and then decides to be as a human.
Right.
So what inspired this episode though is that a Chinese philosopher once said, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, because it'll surely become your destiny. That was Lao Tzu.
Yeah, powerful.
And I love that. I feel like that my mom told me it as a kid. She tells me it now. She teaches it to my son. She teaches it to her children. And so I wonder how in psychology, how that forms to be true. And that's why I brought you on. Do you want to do you want to introduce yourself though?
Yeah, I'm Gabe Crenshaw. I'm a clinical psychologist and let's see, musician, singer, and songwriter. And, I'm a Black man in America. where ironically, being a clinical psychologist and a forensic psychologist and writing and what that whole profession entails, sometimes writing a psychological evaluation to, save someone's life from hospital or jail, etc. Having all of that quote unquote mainstream power as a Black man in America, sometimes it doesn't mean a thing.
Mm.
And because that's what there's a world that sees that first. So it's interesting, even asking me to introduce myself, it just reduces to I'm a man in America. I'm a Black man in America. I've added on a bunch of stuff, a BA, a MA, right, a doctorate, titles, licenses, etc. But at the end of the day, I'm really just a human being moving through like everyone else, trying to be better and trying to make the world a better place. I've chosen the field of psychology, the field of music, in which to sort of do that. So that's me.
That's powerful. I really like that. One of the things that I've realized is that regardless of my title,
Mm-hmm.
mom, girl going to graduate school, wife, daughter, et cetera, I'm just a person, a part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing when I was asked why I wanted a PhD, and I really had to evaluate that. And I realized that I didn't want a PhD so that people can call me doctor.
Good.
Actually, so that if somebody that is a bigot and I need to correct them, I'd want them to correct them in saying, actually, it's doctor.
Right.
But but
I've
really,
done
it
that. I've had to do that. Yes.
just because intersectionalities, being woman, being Black in America, and so on and so forth. I'm like, oh, but I really just want to be a community leader,
Mm-hmm.
or not even a community leader. I just want to be a part of the community.
Yeah.
And so I think that I just love the fact that you said that, because however it is that I move in the community, I feel like this is the best way. And
Mm-hmm.
in psychology, you knew that that was the best way for you to move,
Mm-hmm.
um, and move through people along with music.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that. Um, a couple things that you say strikes me. Your motivation uh, to receive a doctorate in clinical psychology, and I want to be very clear, and everybody that will ever hear this, it doesn't matter what profession you choose. Make sure that you choose what you choose based on an internal mechanism, not an external one. The accolades and um, the the fame, the tapestry,
Mm-hmm.
all the trimmings that comes with doctor, just that title oftentimes suggests respect, right? In our society, it demands a certain kind of respect. People stop and they pause.
I
But
don't want it.
right, exactly, right, exactly. But a lot of people, no matter what the profession is, if it's architecture, or if it's anything in entertainment, nurse, lawyer, I don't care what it is. If your reason and motivation for doing it uh, is less than an intrinsic value, eventually
Mm-hmm.
it will become your prison. The reason
Mm-hmm.
I became, it's really true. And the reason I became a doctor, I felt ignorant. I was in my 20s. And a lot of people always came to me and talked to me about their problems. One day, some people, and these are just friends, I knew that there was a name for what they were going through, but I just didn't know what it was. And the
Mm.
passion to try to figure out what that was, it's more than, oh, it'll be okay. I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to have true sustenance, answers that could actually move them, out of whatever the pain or whatever the experience they were feeling that, was negative or whatever. And I found myself a calling to go back. First, to really deal with my own intrapsychic demons, what was going on with me. That self-exploration, no matter what field anybody ever chooses, is so important because that is the fuel you will use to change the world. You change
Mm-hmm.
you, right? And then you change the world. And it's because I'm exploring me, it gives me the patience to deal with my patience, you know, and it's because I recognize the humanity in me. So I recognize it in you. When I see me, I see you. I am you and you are me. So it I just think that's really just so cool that you have figured that out already. You're still so young, but to figure that out and to know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. Otherwise, I'm telling you, it'll become your prison. You'll be sitting up somewhere like, what the hell did I ever do this? It's like,
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to be Jamia from the how Jennifer Lopez be like, I'm Jenny from the block. I just want to be Jamia from the block.
right.
I really want to, I really feel like, and we'll talk about this in the episode, but I really feel like there's a way to bring people into academia in the sense of, let me add a little flair in hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Let me talk to you about how the Democrats and the Republicans are no different between the Crips and the Bloods. Let me tell you about how the Crips and the Bloods wanted to do something real good for their community, the Black Panther Party, and I'm talking to them like they're gangsters. No, not the gangsters from the roaring 20s, not Al
Right.
Capone. I'm talking about people that wanted to protect their community, just
Mm.
like the Republican Party and the Democratic Party when they were honorable and not making fools out of themselves. We're not going to continue that conversation because that's not why I brought you here today. But how can I make this information relatable? How
Mhm.
can I want to be interested in it? You
Mm.
and I, all of our responsibility is to vote and to understand how our government works and to understand the society that we live in. How can I do I need to study sociology, psychology? Do I need to study? And so I landed on political science, and then I transitioned to policy because I realized it was in policy making that that real change happened. We look at
Mhm.
Roe versus Wade,
Mhm.
but nevertheless, I felt like I told myself, regardless of what anyone else said, I told myself things that I wanted and didn't. And I watched successful people, Kanye, Kim Kardashian. They said a long time ago, I knew that I wasn't. Kanye says, I am a god. I don't know why he's a god. I don't know if it's because he says it out loud. And so we receive the masses receives him as such. Um, I don't know if Kim Kardashian is famous because she viewed herself 14 years old when she was in front of a camera saying that she'd be famous one day as already famous, and that that attitude just stuck. But essentially that's why I ask you, because what is it that I have to do for my sons to
Right.
be who they want to be? Because
Mm.
I guess I understand it like I understand the word the is an article, but I can't really define the word the. And I can only hope I move in a way where they will see. But I don't know where it actually works in their brain to to give them that same gift that I had, regardless of being drug dealer's daughter and daughter of a, teen mom and homeless. And I still said, this is the life I want to create.
Mm.
I created. So I guess that I am statement being thought and then becoming reality is the real idea of this, and then how that moves into our society with stereotypes, or how it even moves with us individually. um what do we know about the brain and how it sees ourselves versus how it sees other people? Do I see you and think, and if I think you're an a-hole, do I think that I'm an a-hole, or do I see you set? How does the brain see? Um, is it a mirror of such, or do I see you as a separate individual as myself?
Great, that was a great question. And really, I mean, I really enjoy your conversation. You're just so incredibly insightful and intelligent. But you're right when you say mirror. There's something called mirror neurons, Tancredi. People should look him up, Tancredi. Tancredi talks about mirror neurons a great deal, and the impact that they have. You cannot perceive someone to be an a-hole and it not blow back on you.
Mm.
It's really true. And it's like, even if it's just the spirit of that a-hole, right? It's still going to blow back on you because you're feeling something in this way. They are coming at you a particular way, and it meets and you feel it, because we can only communicate to other people what we feel. What leaves the heart hits the heart. So in this way, this is a great example of a therapist that was having a difficult time with a 10-year-old kid. He was 10 years old, but he had had a rough life. He's living with his grandmother. His father was in jail. His mother was a prostitute, drugs, etc. DCFS came in and took him out. And so he was very angry, did not trust anybody, had broken promises, all by the age of 10. So here's this great, well-meaning psychologist, and they have all of their plans, how they're gonna, he's gonna come in, and they've got their sand tray going, and they've got their play therapy going, and they have everything perfect. And they're thinking that this kid is gonna walk in and just instantly just adapt to a therapeutic environment. Well, the kid does not, okay? Instead, the kid appears to be difficult, shut down, non-responsive, resistant. And all of a sudden, the therapist reports the child is difficult, incorrigible, is not ready for therapy, and started heaping on all of the negative attributes that this kid had been hearing all of its life, and put it all off on the kid. What happened? That her inability to reach the kid frustrated her. Okay? She met with the same frustration that the kid had: unmet needs, non-responsive to what he needed, what he wanted. And all of a sudden, these are two human beings, one being a professional and an adult, being played by a 10-year-old kid because they didn't watch their mirror neurons. Instead of preparing a therapeutic session to really tap into what was going on with the kid, they had their own agenda. So it was easy for the kid to come into that room with all of the frustration, all of the anger, all of the confusion, all of the disappointment, etc. And bam, married. You have to shake that and realize what it is. If you want to change the kid, right, inside that therapeutic dyad, then you have to recognize that level of frustration and have the ability to rise above it. So what am I saying? That we impact, infect, or influence each other. Who is stronger? Because I'm a human being too. So inside the brain, where the amygdala is, where emotions are, sense of embarrassment, all of that is in this space called the amygdala. And by the time I'm an adult, I've got a lot of memories about when I've been embarrassed, when I felt played, when I was frustrated, what's my triggers, etc. Right? You might not know what my triggers are, but if you start to move in that direction, you'll find out very quickly based on my reaction. Right? And it's because I'm sitting next to the amygdala is that hippocampus. All of a sudden, I'm now in the subcortical region of my brain. The ability for me to reason and have insight and assess a situation and rise above it requires me to be in the prefrontal cortex of my brain, that forehead part. That's why the forehead is so big. It's the largest part in our head.
The part that doesn't develop until you're 25.
Doesn't
or
completely develop
something.
until you're 25. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it can still play tricks because my emotion can override my common sense. Ask
Mm.
anybody who's fallen in love. I don't care how old they are. You put them caution to the wind, you know. And that's what it is. That's why it hits young people, teenagers, so hard because all of
Yeah.
that emotion and all of that is attached. And so the brain makes everything function. As an adult, we have the ability to sort of play with that concept and go, okay, wait a minute. I'm being guided by my emotions right now. I tell myself all the time, Gabe, get the hell up out of your subcortical region and move back up to your prefrontal cortex so you can make sense of your life in the world. You know? And so I have to talk to myself. So when you talk about affirmation and statements like that, that's what we're doing. The fear inside the amygdala, I won't achieve it. I got two black sons. Oh my God, how am I going to raise them in this world that sees them as marginal, etc.? You have to talk to yourself and go, I don't care what the world sees them as. The reality is you're not this. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
you are pouring into your sons. And they will become, at an early age, you start to pour into them, it will stick. It really will. It will stick.
It's funny that you said that because I have come to this place where I've realized that parenting a toddler, I've heard someone say this, but parenting a toddler is parenting yourself. It's
If you,
you learning to, you are wanting them to not be frustrated about something so tiny.
mhm,
Today, my son was at the park and we had to leave, and transitioning from one place, from doing an activity that, you know, a child would love, to now leaving that activity is very hard for a child,
mhm.
harder for neurodivergent children. My child is not neurodivergent, but I just know this because I worked in childcare. And so I realized that I had to gather myself. I watched this video of a woman, her child told her that because her sister and brother drew all over her picture, that she was really freaking, she was like 7 or 8. I'm really freaking pissed right now. It was so cute. And but I'm gonna go away. And then the mom said, remember when you ruined mommy's really expensive Fenty makeup? Well, and she said, yeah. And I'm so sorry because now I understand. So how you're saying is like this, when it comes to a child, my child seeing me and building those habits that I show them that I have.
Right.
And it's not about, in that statement of, it's not about what you do, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do, is
Mhm.
so important. And so I wonder to you, what do we know about building habits in our brain? What do we know about, because if I am what I say, and then what I say turns into my habits, how do I even get to unlearning so that I can, how did I get to unlearn to be better for him and for them?
That's how you did it. You just did it by doing. That's you
Just doing it.
because there what's happening is we call it a competing behavior. When you have a behavior or a habit that you want to change, it's never going to
Mm.
change if you just say quit cold turkey, right? That's why we
Yeah.
have antidotes for alcoholics. That's why we have Nicorette for people who smoke. What we're doing, we're putting in a competing behavior. I'm a human being. You take something away, you got to give me something to replace it. And so it works the
Yeah.
same way, right? It's really true. It works the same way. And so while you're getting the competing behavior going, do you realize what you're doing? You are simultaneously unlearning the other alternative behavior, the initial
Okay.
behavior. You're automatically unlearning it. That's all. We make it a lot harder than what it has to be, which is why it's so wonderful to watch children. I have a great intervention for you when it comes to when you go to the park next time. or if
Mm-hmm.
the kids playing on a play date and everybody's playing, having a good time, and then it's time to go. Trying to take that kid out of that fun environment, you're going to be met with a tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the deal. And I did this with my daughter. I would say, hey, Courtney, I want you to start thinking about going to be leaving. We're not leaving yet. You know, you can continue playing. I just want you to start to think about it. Start thinking about leaving. Start thinking about having to say goodbye to your friends today, and start thinking about you won't be able to continue to play the game for today. I'll be back. And then we go and she does her thing, and we're all the adults are doing their thing. And I don't know, about 10 or 15 minutes. See, I have it planned. If the goal is to leave at 4:30, I don't go in there 5 minutes to 4:30, 4:25 and say, start thinking about it. So I go, and this helps me, right, as an adult, because I'm trying to plan and trying to modulate my own affect, right? So I'm doing the same thing for her. So I don't know, about 20 minutes into it, you know, I go, let's say that. About 10 minutes later, I come back. Now it's about 4:20, Courtney. And she's like, now it's on her mind. When she sees me, she's thinking it's time to go. Well, guess what? It's not yet. Have you been thinking about it? Yeah, I am. Do I have to go now? No. So now you got cooperation. Do I have to go now? That's cooperation. That's negotiation. So I'm going, no, no, no. Continue thinking about it, all right? I'll be back. And when I come back the next time, it will be time to go, okay? Have fun. So she goes on and she have fun, and I'm doing my thing. When I come back at about 4:25, 4:27, she's ready to go. She might be sad. It's like, oh, we have to go. Yeah, honey, we have to go. Remember? Were you thinking about it? I was. Tell me what you were thinking. I was thinking, I'm going to miss my friends and different things at different times. But if I'm training an adult to be respectful of other people's time, why wouldn't I be respectful of my child's time?
Mm.
Right? I'm not interested in you. I'm well, not the club, family show. I mean, I don't go clubbing. I haven't done this since I was in my 20s. But I'm having a great time with friends I haven't seen in a while, and we're having dinner, etc. Imagine the maitre d' coming up to us, coming up to you going, oh, it's time to go. Here's your bill. Excuse me? I'm like, uh-uh.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we do with kids. We don't mean to, because we're thinking, okay, they played long enough. But what's long enough? Again, we're not being respectful of their time. I grew up in an environment where respectful of a child. Are you kidding me? Their time is my time. They got time because I'm paying for them to have time. Oh, and you
Uh-huh.
raise that kind of kid, and guess who's going to first experience the fallout? You, as the parent, when they become that magic word, a teenager.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have been learning that. I was such an analytical kid, or teenager, actually child too. But I remember my mom would ask me things like, why did you do that? And I would tell her, like, well, it would make sense for me to like boys, mom. I'm 16. When you're 16, there's a stage for a whole bunch of things. You lost your virginity at 16. Why? People have sex at 16 because it's like one of those eight. It's a, what did I say? It's like one of those staple ages
Right.
where you got your period. Why would my body release my best eggs as soon as I got my period, and not later when I'm 30, when you're telling me to have babies and get
Oh,
married?
oh
It
God.
makes sense.
You
So
said
she would be
your
mad.
mom?
I said this, 16 years old,
Ay, ay,
18
ay, ay, ay.
18 years old. My mom comes to me, ask her, 18 years old. My mom comes to me, you're just so rebellious. You just want to do whatever you want and la 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 la. Well, you know what, mom? I was watching what is it called?
Uh,
Meerkat Manor. I was watching some show called Meerkat Manor, and it just so happens that in the animal kingdom, that's
uh-huh.
just how it is.
Right.
In the animal kingdom, it's time for the cats to go when they mature. In the animal kingdom, and then you just want me to like listen to you? No, I'm supposed to be leaving at this age and going to college. Of course, I'm not going to understand of you. Of course, I'm not. And I said this to her. And then I turned around, turned 20 something when my sister turned 18, 19, 20 years old. She's 21 now. My mom would tell me, I'm having such a hard time with your sister. She's on that same tip as you were. And I said, Mom, remember when I told you that it's just there are ages, and it's just kind of like a staple, and it's not even societal, it's human nature.
Yes,
Something
biological.
about it is human nature, and you're just going to have to be okay with it. And she said, I want you to be okay with it when you have children. And unfortunately, I think I'm going to have analytical children that's going to just tell me, well, Mom, of course I want to have sex at 16. I'm 16, duh. And I'm just going to have to deal with it. But I guess that brings me to my next question, which is our brain understanding good and bad, and when we're telling ourselves something good and something bad. If I'm telling myself that this is just how it is, even if it's true, if I'm telling myself something like I'm dumb, the man that says he is and he isn't, they're both right. If I tell myself that I'm going to pass this test, whatever it is, how does that shape us? Because I felt like, well, this was the logical and I think there was a point in my life where I just understood, yeah, of course I'm illogical. Emotions aren't rational. And this was James Baldwin's fault, actually. He said, he said in an interview with Nikki Giovanni, why was I at 18 years old watching, the great James Baldwin talking to Nikki Giovanni? I was just that kid. But either way, I suppose, how do we as people, do we know when we're telling ourselves a lie? Do we know that? Because I can be critical of myself. I can say, oh, Jamia, you're not doing this right. You really need to step up your game. But I can also be way too critical and saying, no, you're just a dumb, dumb this, dumb that, be this, that. I could just really talk down. I have. Do I know the difference? Do I know when I'm telling myself something that is true or is a lie?
Freud might say not necessarily that you are going to use your ego. So this is great for you psychology people. Id, ego, super ego, right? The id is everything that is just due. The id is your 16-year-old self telling your mom, well, of course I want to have sex. And we all have sex because I'm 16 in my body. That's just straight id, all id. Your mom is the super ego going, you will not, it is gross, it is nasty, it's unholy, it's not, it's unconventional, and you must be a good girl, etc. And never, ever, ever. That's super ego. Then you have what's in the middle, the ego, the great rationalizer. Okay. And so it's sitting there trying to mediate between these two extremities, id and super ego. All right. Now you're just telling yourself one side of the story. Now, if you start moving to this other thing of what you're saying, all right, about, I'm dumb, I'm this, or I'm overly critical, etc., or am I lying to myself, that I could, can you do this better? No, I really can't. All of that stuff, that moves into this cognitive dissonance. Sometimes it's hard for us as human beings to know where the truth ends and a lie begins, or the lie ends and the truth begins. And so there's an internal mechanism that everybody has. Freud says it's cognitive dissonance. And to help ameliorate all of that and to balance it out, what we then do is apply defense mechanisms. So guess what? Now you're back deceiving yourself again. So the guy who is at work all day and he has a board meeting and they completely ransack him. They just walk all over him, make him feel horrible. The boss tells him that presentation you put together was horrible. He can't say anything. He can't cuss his boss out. He won't have a job. He's got a wife and 3 kids. So what does he do? He comes home, but he's driving on the freeway, cussing everybody out. He gets home, he kicks the cat, yells at his wife, tells the children, shut up, you all are making too much noise, etc. He's a holy terror when he gets home. What's going on? If you let him tell it, all the drivers are a-holes. His wife is being difficult and doesn't understand what he goes through, and she has just a prince of a life sitting looking like a princess. And then the kids are just ungrateful, unthankful, unholy, and they don't appreciate what it is to be, provided for and privileged. That's really not necessarily true, but that's the script he's telling himself. Because the truth is, all of that venom he wanted to spew out on his boss.
Mm-hmm.
He can bring himself to do it. So it's called displaced anger. So instead, he needs a bunch of proxies so that he can be powerful again. So when you see people out in the world sometimes spewing out venom everywhere, it's because they really feel so unpowerful in their life. And they can only be powerful in that instance by exerting their power on people that they already know are there's a power
Feel
difference.
comfortable with. It's their safe zone. Is the wife is going to take it. I know she will.
Right.
The children are vulnerable, but my boss, he will fire me. He's not vulnerable. He's the one that has the power.
Exactly. And that's the power differential. So even in the midst of all of my upsetness and anger, I ain't stupid. Now, even though I'm not bringing myself to realize this is displaced anger, that's what that is. We use denial as well. When people say, are you just in denial? That boy doesn't like you. Well, yes, he does. Then we rationalize all of our behavior. Well, I went into the store, but the cashier was such a butthole. That's why, I didn't feel bad about stealing the candy. I didn't feel bad about stealing the Gatorade. If they hadn't been such a butthole, I would have paid for it. Whatever lie you want to tell yourself,
you would have done it anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of who you are. So then it becomes a question of character. But these are all the ways in which Freud says that we can it helps us rationalize that ego. The id takes over, but the ego allows us to minimize the discomfort. So the truth of who I am is I became a thief that day. But I'm not going to admit that because that's not who I really want to be. So I'm going to put it on to the cashier for being a butthole when it has nothing to do with that. But can I tell myself I'm a thief? No. Can I tell myself I'm dumb? Yeah, I can. Why is that? Why is I can tell, oh, you're stupid, oh, you're dumb, etc. Is that your thought you're thinking? It probably isn't. That's a thought that was exacted upon you. And you make one mistake and you think everything they've said about you is true. Because it seems a lot easier as human beings to believe the bad than to accept the good. And with practice, your self-loathing, you don't need the world to put you down. You have become a master at it.
And they can't put you down because you already have brought yourself to the low. So whatever anyone else has said, you already said it.
Well, that's true, but there has to be a level, and this is my thing when I deal with racism, there has to be a level of accountability. The fact that you understand what I'm saying? This started somewhere. The fact that you say, I'm raising 2 Black sons, why the distinction? The average white woman wouldn't say, I'm raising 2 white sons.
Because intersectionality, and I have the where I don't think that it's on purpose that our society, people that are great people, realize that white people are the default of America. And because of that, they don't know that they're white until they walk into a room where it's not predominantly white. because everywhere I go, I am a Black woman. It doesn't matter which part of America I'm in, I am a Black woman. And my family has made sure that I knew my place because of safety, because there's a tiger in the dark somewhere in this jungle. But my white counterparts don't realize that Black women are dying 5.2% higher. Educated Black women are dying 5.2% higher from pregnancy-related mortality rate. Just not like, let's take out the fact that they have really great insurance. Let's take out the fact that they have a good midwife. Let's just say it's because articles are still being published that suggest that we feel less pain than they do.
Absolutely.
And so on and so on and so forth. And that's why you're so needed in academic world as a psychologist, as a doctor. And that's why you are a doctor, so that you can contribute to that. It's not really for the accolade. It's because a part of it is life or death.
It's absolutely true. And I tell you, being a professor at USC for years, teaching graduate students and doing lectures in the PhD department, training doctors. And if you want to talk about cluelessness, you want to talk about the encapsulated therapist, my goodness, when you say a white person walks into a room filled with people of color, that's when they really recognize, oh, wow. But let's be very clear, even when they're recognizing I'm the only white person here, because they have grown up with the sort of privilege of the gold standard, which is them, even if they are the only one in the room, there is not a sense that somehow they're going to be damaged or they're going to be minimized, because they exist in a world that if they had to call the police and they had to call for help, I don't care if it's a sea of people of color, pick whatever color, Black, brown, etc. When the authorities get there, the first person they're going to make sure is okay is them. And there is a power differential that comes with you are the preferred. So it doesn't matter where you step, you kind of still own the space. And even if that, and I believe a lot of that is on unconscious thought, but if you just observe, just watch. I saw what happened to students when Black Dr. Gabe Crenshaw walks into the classroom on the first day. First of all, they don't think that I'm the professor. Sometimes I would, just walk in. If I didn't have a suit on, I sort of just blend in with everybody else. I couldn't possibly be the professor.
Yeah.
And
are you the adjunct?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Are you the TA?
And the interesting thing is, Black professors, by and large, are challenged by students. Well, you're an adjunct, so you don't necessarily hear that from the white counterpart, where the white counterpart and adjunct is being challenged or their position is being minimized. Because I'm full-time professor, it was like, first of all, why would I ever discuss my employment with a student during class time? You understand what I'm saying? But that's what I'm talking about. There is this, it's a given. And when you challenge it, then I become the angry Black man. You become the angry Black woman. So now when you're talking about, I think, therefore, and I am what I think, etc. Are you an angry Black woman? Am I an angry Black man? If I challenge the status quo, if I challenge to make sure that respect is being honored appropriately, for if nothing else for the title, does that make me angry? Does that make me an arrogant, uppity nigger? What is all that about? And so then we got to, pull ourselves back and find a very gingerly way to say it, be very careful how we go through and navigate the landscape. These are all activities that typically my white counterparts, they simply don't have to do.
And I feel like that's grooming because of master. That's still slavery thought. The fact that I'm being softer for you is still, I am still the slave in society, and understanding that, which makes me angry, is why I don't like, because even with being intersectionality, being a Black woman in America means that you might get shot for it, but I'm not even human for it. Nicki Minaj is not a boss for wanting her production to be right. But I don't know, let Keith Urban not have his production right, and he curses out everyone. Oh, he's just a go-getter.
Righteous
He's
execution.
so respectable. And even sometimes Lil Wayne, for all intents and purposes, he might be respectful. He might be a boss. He might be a go-getter. It would be something, but me, I'm all sorts of B words and bitter on top of Black women. And that's why I want to have that conversation with affirmation, because it turns into because I really feel like it turns into this collective thought is a stereotype that it shifts in laws and policy and who deserves to die and who had an unjust death and whose death was just. We're still listening to Candace Owens. Well, me, I like politics, right? So I'm still listening to what the opposing side is saying about George Floyd's death. And they don't talk about Castillo, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, these people that were they talk about this, well, he's a crackhead who was on fentanyl and he was the face of it. What about Breonna Taylor and Castillo and all these other people?
Hold on. That's that qualifying thing that we do. And in my classrooms, I stopped it cold.
Yes. Thank you for calling it.
I stop it cold. Fentanyl and all that stuff, you know what? We're dealing with, first of all, I don't know that he was any of those things, you know. And the other side of it is fentanyl and all that stuff is the result of who? This public opioid crisis is not about Negroes. This public health crisis, it's about 17 to 35-year-old white people. It is the exact same crisis. Go back to the 80s crack epidemic. Nobody gave a damn about that. Their kids started going through and with opioids, and all of a sudden, you know what? We're calling on the pharmaceutical companies. We're suing them. We want to sue
it's the pharmaceutical companies' fault.
Exactly.
And it's just like they knew that it was happening to them. They knew that, never mind the fact that they were pushing this stuff and they were pushing crack into our community. Never mind the fact that we were literally in other countries in the South, in the southern borders. We were in South America because we were trying to, and then we were pumping up the Middle East at the same time. Absolutely. And they were damaging the Middle East and got them so fired up, and this is where I'm a terrorist, because I'm like, well, it's kind of America's fault that Osama bin Laden had all of that stuff in the first place.
Right, you'll get in trouble for that.
I get so in trouble for saying that we went to South America, that we told on there are people who have told on themselves that have recorded that they put it in our community.
Absolutely. And Maxine Waters blew that out the water. That is undisputable. It is an undisputable fact, and we all know it. But it's funny how it develops a humanity around it when it becomes white kids. And there's no other way to say it. The public health crisis comes into being. And so as a result, now fentanyl in the hands of quote unquote George Floyd makes him an addict and common criminal. What they're trying to do is qualify a reason as to why this white guy should have had his knee on his neck and killing him. But if it's the white kid who is scoring in 7 and 11 and we give him fentanyl and he has the fentanyl, it's just, oh my God, he's lost his way. He started out on pharmaceuticals, but you know what? He couldn't get it anymore because, there was backlash. And so he's out on the street scoring with heroin. I don't care how you want to write that script, What you're saying is that your kids are more valued than my kids, that
Mm-hmm.
your white life is more valued than my life. And that has to impact Black people and people of color in a very serious way, making it much more difficult to create the kind of affirmation to get up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror and see beauty. There is no other way to say it. I'm so sick of self-help books, etc. Saying,
I'm so
all of
sick of
this.
having conversations with not just my peers, but my mentors on how
Yeah,
to fix this problem.
right.
Because I wouldn't dare ask you, how do I fix the problem?
What did James Baldwin say? I'm not your nigga, and racism is not my issue to fix. It's
Mm-hmm.
yours.
Yes.
And so by design, that's why we are so. I think in many ways, as Black people in particular, we are very fractured when it comes to how to fix this problem. We used to think education was the way, and so if you're
Yes.
educated, we used to think, change your voice, and I even do it myself at times. I have a deep voice and I will raise it. Sometimes when I'm in class, and I'm trying to just understand where everyone
Code
is,
switch.
and all of that. And it's like I'm wondering, and I mean, how it's like, Gabe, how high are you gonna go up with your voice for what? For what? To make them feel safe? When ain't nobody thinking about your kid when they start to drive, ain't nobody thinking about keeping him safe. Nobody's thinking about keeping me safe. Not really. I mean, the collective. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There are those people and there are those allies, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. And so there would be no reason for allies, right?
If there
If
wasn't a
everything
problem.
was level playing. Exactly. So miss me with this is my issue and how, but why you don't want to raise your boys in fear. In fear. I'm raising my kids to keep them alive. You
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be telling me about not talking to my kids about the realities of policing. You should be talking to the bad cop. So there won't be a reason for me to talk to my boys about policing. Why are you coming into my home telling me I'm becoming a fearmonger and I'm passing this on to my boys when you're not running into the police station trying to weed out all the bad cops? Wouldn't that be the way to do it? If we want to stamp out ignorance, learn to read. You don't get upset with the 5-year-old because you put a book in front of him, but you haven't taught him how to read yet. It's called a teacher.
Yeah.
And so it makes it difficult. The affirmations and all of that stuff. I mean, some of that Lord knows we started all of this, ancient KMTs,
Mm-hmm.
all the walls and everything of the temples and all of that. That's all us. So we got this party started. But because of the history of this country and what we're dealing with and what we continue to deal with, as far as the affirmations and thinking and being and moving in that, it's not impossible. I use it myself and I've watched my life do what it's done to date. But it was more difficult. And there's no sense, Jamia, in us pretending like it's not more difficult to do the affirmations. I love Deepak Chopra and I love all these people and and all the Seat of the Soul, Gary Zukav and all the modern day Marianne Williamson and she gets it though. And all of the thought leaders, which interestingly enough tend to largely be white, and that the world pushes forward. They get the
But
book.
it's also it's also they recognize that they're supposed to be holding the line anyway.
Right.
And so I'm not always upset about that. But I guess how I feel, and this is we could go on for hours about it, but how I feel about media and how I feel about how this turns into a constructive. Before media existed, we still had stereotypes that came to collective thought about how we thought about Black people and so like I even think about how it used to be in commercials where antidepressant medicine was America was the only country that antidepressant medicine was being advertised the way that it does. And then I'm not sure if you're savvy on it or if you're privy to the fact that on social media there are apps that you can get tests that they push ads on Instagram and Facebook for apps that will test if you have ADHD. And
Yeah.
now we're just becoming this, of course, being neurodivergent is understanding that, and understanding that what we think is normal isn't actually normal. That's great that we're moving to that,
Mhm.
but we also simultaneously are building a community of building a society of people that are not understanding that their depression isn't actually depression,
Right.
that my anxiety isn't actually anxiety, and that we are becoming more it's okay for me to be dependent on the Ritalin. It's okay for me to be dependent on the I can't sleep because I have insomnia because I'm pregnant, right? And you'll give me hydroxyzine and all of these other things for my Ambien because supposedly it's safe for my pregnancy. I can't take it while I'm breastfeeding though, but it's safe during my pregnancy. But the mom that smokes marijuana because she's self-medicating, we know when hip hop self-medication was what was. It was hip hop. It was a part
Right.
of our reality, but it wasn't who we were. And we knew it. We understood the nuance without having a big vocabulary about it, but we knew it wasn't who we were.
Mhm.
And so when you're listening to what's being pushed on radio, what ads are in Facebook, then when you look at what's being pushed in CNN, what laws are being formed, what collective thought is being created, that's what I'm trying to figure out how I shift. Cause me, I don't know how. I don't know if it was the OGs praying for me, the hoodoo and voodoo mamas, witch masters from back in the day, but I'm straight. And I know my sons, I know they will be straight because I'm straight. I got it. I
Right.
think I know I got it because I know that I don't got it. I got it
Mhm.
because I know as soon as I get it, it moves and it's okay.
Right. But you're consciously
How
aware.
do but we live in a society where it's just like these things are shifting, laws are shifting, ideas are shifting, and I'm not sure if I should really be concerned about it. Um, because I'm hoping that we can fix it. Roe versus Wade, so many different things, but these collective thoughts that move in social media and so on and so forth. That's kind of like what I get concerned about. And I know it starts with self because it's like I believe and then I influence the belief as you were talking about in the beginning, and then I saw it, and so we started to agree that this was normal, and then now it's culture is shifting our law and vice versa. So I know that I'm good, but are we all going to be good if she isn't good? How do I help her get it? Do I help the racist get it? Do I don't want to I don't I'm unapologetically black and still trying to be the James Baldwin that is empathetic because I know that they are almost like a child.
Mhm.
Do I view the rest of the world like their children? Do I view the rest of the world like they're me? I guess that's where I'm at right now. Do I view my classmate that said this ignorant thing like like they're my son, like
Mhm.
they're myself,
Mhm.
and then I will respond to them unapologetically unsoft, but they will understand not to F with like how do I that's
Mhm.
where I'm like trying to figure it all out. That's the stage that I'm in at 27 because it's just like with my husband, I know I got it with him. But
Mhm.
this white person, this other person that's not understanding and thinking I'm just making up the reality that I live in, and I'm in law world because my education isn't enough, because my thinking isn't enough, because I studied critical race theory and that's illegal now.
Right.
Like, I'm so at a loss because I don't even want to talk to you about it because you get it. I don't even want to have the conversation anymore. I just want to do it. But I don't even know what to do. I just know to raise my kid right and to continue to believe in me.
You're doing a lot more, Jamia, than what you might think. We live in a society, and this is across all racial boundaries, and this happens particularly in capitalism and in a capitalistic environment, that we have to do, and there has to be volume, a great production, because that's the only way to show that it's effective, that you're moving the needle. We need to be able to see it. We need to be able to feel it. And not only that, everybody else needs to be able to observe it, right? And so we have to be able to observe it, and then scientifically we can, make knowledge claim. What we don't take into consideration really is what I call the more feminine power of knowing. The masculine power grabs the bull by the horns and inflicts and executes mightily. The feminine power has the ability to just sort of hover, but it's of a very pervasive nature. And its effectiveness is very, very strong. Just think about the subtlety of sensuality, the subtlety of racism. You can't always put your finger on it. We're beyond the Confederate flying flag, but you know it's there.
The microaggressions.
Yeah, and micro stuff. And it's so hard to pinpoint, which is why it works. So you getting it, your husband getting it. You don't have to, be out in the middle of the street and, that sort of thing, jumping pews and stuff like that in the church house, all of that. The way that you get it and the way that you naturally move in the world, it has a very pervasive power and is very strong. And it will get the job. It will get the job done. A lot more than what you might give yourself credit for. Really, you're doing a lot more than what you think. Okay, so I don't want you to sort of minimize what you're doing, how you're thinking, and yeah, it does. There's an ebb and flow to it, and it moves. But the idea that you're conscious of all of that, that's how you stay fluid, and you have the ability, right, to sort of move about. And I know it's a moving target. And it's interesting, I have to say, listening to you and what you just so eloquently and very articulately stated, so fundamentally, it bothers me. It pains me, like almost to the point of tears. Because I remember when I was your age and the people my age, I was talking like you, and they said, we had hoped that by the time y'all came along, this would be over.
And I feel like it's getting worse. And I don't mean it in the sense of, I remember the good old days when I was a child.
No, I know what you mean.
I asked my mom, I asked my grandma, do y'all remember? Is it because social media? What's going on? And I really wanted to end this podcast on a happy note.
And but I know, but it is, and it is, but I'm saying the same thing to you now that was said to me. I really thought we would have fixed this, and so we are in many ways we're more fractured than ever. But on the good ship Lollipop, we you're not alone.
I
And
don't feel I don't feel like I'm alone in my thought. I feel like I live in a very conscious society
yeah,
where I almost feel like the racism is bots. Like they're not even I don't even because I have conversations with Republican white men, Southern values. I have Southern values. I'm from Florida. Of course I do. I was raised with Republican values, raised with the ideology of every man do it himself, kind of also on the tip of being a village because I'm still a Black woman that holds to her roots in the sense of community being Black or Hispanic or LGBTQIA plus, right?
mhm,
We don't move individualistically in that way, but
mhm.
also with that Republican tip. And I can be positive when I say that majority of my family voted Democratic because they had to.
Okay, yeah. All right, look at here. Okay, before we go, all right, I just
Yes.
need to make sure I see this. Okay, a couple things here. All right, this Republican tip, Democratic tip, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, fine. I have those same values. Let me tell you something. Okay, treating people right, having a sense of morality is not political party specific. And so
Mhm.
this whole notion of family values, which is what Republicans sort of hang their hat on. Well, first of all, that's a bunch of bullshit.
It's
That
just
that's
a tip
that's
to get
BS.
them in.
Of course, right? And so the thing is because they have so many of their leaders that have been the very opposite, literally. I mean, just literally the
Mm.
antithesis to everything that you have preached about. How dare you suggest that just by virtue of being a Republican makes you somehow you are the moral high ground, the standard by which all of us can only hope to enjoy one day? That is BS. Absolute
Mm.
BS. If you really want to know people who have held things up and love your neighbor as yourself and not do unto others, but do unto others as you have them do unto you. We built this country as Black people for over 400 years. We could have killed and slaved those people. We were feeding them. We were breastfeeding their kids. You know how many of them we could have poisoned? They were raping our women, all in the name of Jesus with their religion that you now use as Republican. And then you have the audacity to then talk about individuality and being responsible for yourself. That is just a dog whistle politics to make sure that you then abandon the collective, because when you move over to the individualistic society portion, we're there waiting for you. You don't
Mhm.
stand a chance. You don't
Mhm.
stand a chance on your own. We are
And
better
then
at
they
doing it
use
as a collective.
racism as a tool on and the reason why they're not being able to get the help that they deserve. Oh, it's because the
Exactly.
Mexicans stole your jobs. It's because the Black people are on welfare. No,
Exactly.
you changed the quota, the standard for welfare, and that's the reason why she's not getting welfare.
Exactly. When all of that stuff was created for you and your people, that was not created for us. It
We
was
were
created for
never in
your people.
mind.
No, and your people still benefit per capita number more than anybody else. So miss
Mhm.
me with that. And so all of that becomes a thing. And then it gives us, as Black people and people of color, non-white, it gives us something to argue with each other about. Well, if you get off welfare, stop having all them kids, and get out of public housing, blah, 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 blah. So all of a sudden, guess who's standing over in the corner going, I just called you a nigger. Yeah, you all are doing such a great job of it yourself. But you set the table. And so the work that we have to do is dismantle all of that before we can even get back to the welcome table to be like, hey, I am you, you are me. You might be boys in the hood. You might be over the Rhine Cincinnati's all gentrified now, but Nickerson Gardens in California and Jordan Downs, eventually that's going to be gentrified too, I'm sure.
Inglewood going.
Inglewood is beyond on its way. View Park and all of those areas, they're reclaiming them back.
Slauson and Crenshaw.
Yes, they had the ability to do it because the power structure, money and power belongs to them. And so this whole notion of being the individualistic person, and being, personal responsibility. Who has more personal? You have a degree. You're married, raising 2 kids. That's a hell of a lot of personal responsibility. Why are you still having a difficult time and have to realize at 27 years old that you are up against something, a formidable foe that only is responsive and reacts to the color of your skin? You can walk in anywhere, but that's going to be an issue. You then have to, all your affirmations and thinking and doing all the stuff you're doing and the positive reinforcement, all that stuff you're doing, it's going to take that and then some, just so that you have the energy to get up and walk into the lion's den. It's just the reality. Period. Period. And I think you're doing a terrific job at it too.
Thank you.
I really do.
I think my last question to you then would be, as a Black man who is educated, who has seen both sides of the track, and because you've seen one side of the track, you never want to go back. We know that Nipsey Hussle, who was trying to do a great thing, he passed away. Rich Black people can't live in the hood. Chicago be this and that, and you want to build up in your community as much as you can. What is it that you hold on to then when you get discouraged? Because a lot of me looks at the color of my skin and knowing that as a light-skinned woman, I'm gonna get a little bit more privilege, or at least the privilege that I get isn't privilege. What it actually is that I get it less. I don't have to hear it from all angles, and I get relief, whereas other Black people don't, or, et cetera and so on. But how have you been waking people up, our people up, to realize that I can't be arguing with you? Like my husband, he wants to be a police officer. I think it's right. Yes, I must encourage you to be a police officer, because if it's not you, then who else is going to do it?
Right.
And then hopefully it changes. I don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know if Martin Luther King was singing Kumbaya and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Angry protesting didn't work. Silent protesting, when Kobe wore his "I Can't Breathe" shirt, they said, shut up and dribble the ball.
Right.
Nothing that we're doing is working. I'm just doing. And we have this infighting.
Yes.
What have you, as that, you were educated house nigga now. What have you, because I combat that often.
Yes.
And I know where it comes from. It still hurts. I know where it comes from, because I don't think they realize that I still get it bad.
Right.
And I'm not cushioned. How do you wake it? How have you been waking up? Or what is your advice to anyone that's like in academia and then turn around and go to their, small town folk, and you're like, I'm not even talking to you with such and such jargon.
Right.
This is Jamia from the block. And they still see you different, like Dr. Gabe. How are you navigating that? What advice do you have to someone that will one day that is navigating it in academia, and then let's pray it don't get worse when I achieve?
Absolutely. Great question. It's back to what we said when we started, when you asked me about mirror, and I talked about the mirror neurons. In those instances with the Black people, we are as strong as our quote unquote weakest link, but I don't want to say weak with them, because it's not about weakness. We are as strong as our most painful leak. These are people in pain, and they're
Mm-hmm.
sickness out of society that I don't live in. You know, this is how I do it. You're right. I don't go in with doctor. First of all, I don't do that in general. That's not who I am.
Right.
My mother taught me that. I assess and I feel. I don't talk, I listen, and I feel them. So remember the little kid and the therapist? Therapist had her agenda. Therapist, he or she had this agenda and was going to impose this on the kid. Not because I know better, but because I'm a therapist and this is what I do. It's going to make you feel better. You gotta first let them feel. Now, am I comfortable enough in those environments to let them feel and let them tell me how they feel? And I take it. So I take it all in. It doesn't take long because what they're feeling, I'm feeling too.
Mm-hmm.
We're feeling the same thing. And so that empathy and that feeling, that's what connects us. All they really ever want to know is that you still have the ability to feel the pain of what this is for us. And that's true of anybody, anything. If we were Jews and Jews operate in America and they feel they're, don't ever forget because they're going to put us back in those concentration camps. And then you have the Hasidic Jew versus the Reformed Jew versus the Jew that, is complete of the Orthodox Jew, all of that stuff. And they're along a continuum too. And so when you walk into the synagogue, don't walk in as a heathen. Walk in like, what's going on. When I walk into Southwest College, I learned a valuable lesson. And here's the thing. I'm gonna share the story real quick. I got with the football players there. I would work out with them and train with them, which they thought was the most incredible thing, that I could be in the workout room right with them because I'm their professor. And they'd see me as Dr. Crenshaw. And I didn't cease to be Dr. Crenshaw, even while I was working out with them, right? But they saw me because I saw them. So some of them wouldn't come to my night class. And I was like, what do you mean I come to the night class? Oh, it's too dangerous out there. And I was like, too dangerous? I was like, I have single women, single mothers in my class. They get up in the morning. You know what their schedule is? They get up in the morning, they get their kids ready. They take their kids over to their mother's house. Mom takes them to the daycare center or to school. Then they take another bus, on the bus now, take the bus, get off work, go back to mom's house, pick up the kids, grab something to eat, get the kids home, get their homework, put them to bed, do what they're doing, studying. On the school nights, they got to get a babysitter, get to my class. Sometimes they're a little late, but I understand. And they do all this all over again because they've got something, a dream. They've got something that they can see, a degree. What's your excuse? So they was like, can you drive us home? So I drove them home. I won't say the area where we were. We get off the freeway and they say, turn here. Well, I'm already in shell shock. And I said to them, turn here with my car? You want me to take my car down there? So we get down there and I'm driving, slow because I'm thinking there are houses around there, apartments around there. So what are you doing? Speed up, speed up, speed up. And roll, you mean you got tinted window? I mean, they went ballistic. I didn't know. I'm like rolling all slow with tinted windows. Like, you can't do that over here. So when I finally let the last one out, as each one of them got out the car, I said, you don't have to come to class. I'm going to figure out something else. I understood because I walked through what they went through, and I didn't tell them, I don't give a damn. You need to make this happen, because I felt what they felt. I felt the same fear. I felt the same, all of that. When you walk into those situations with our people, even after you are Dr. Jamila, when you walk in with that, they can feel it. You cannot fake, I care about you. And the reason I get over in whatever environment I'm in is because everybody knows Dr. Gabe cares. When the thing is over, when the group is over, when the seminar is over, when the whatever is over, and I'm still in the parking lot an hour and a half later talking to you, word travels fast. That's what we have to do. Is it unorthodox to take students home? Of course it is. Those aren't our rules. You have to learn for you what rules you want to break for the greater good of your own people. Because this BS that we're dealing with, that's not rules either, not humanity rules.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you do it. It's all based on feeling. And then everything that you know that can maybe help push their life forward, you have plenty of time to talk about that. But when you first walk in and you don't feel that acceptance and you feel like they're looking at you, they are looking at you that way. They are seeing you as an outsider. So lead with your heart. And if you do that, the mirror neuron that you are pushing out is gonna hit their heart and their mirror neuron. And unlike that the therapist and the 10-year-old fighting the therapist won't happen, because the therapist will bring themselves down, lay themselves down. You will lay yourself down for your people and go, I'm here. I'm going to leave here eventually, and I'm not going to live in your project, but I am here. I am with you, and I came to help. That will arrest any suspicion, any fear, and they will see you as their beautiful light-skinned sister who's there to help. And I mean that every step. It will happen like that every single time. Every single time, man. Seriously.
I believe you. That's how we met. And and every single time, regardless if it was, I don't know if you want to keep this in the pod, you cussing in church, or you checking the teenager that's cussing you out. That's telling you that don't work for me. Yes, it will.
Yeah.
Every single time it worked for you. You met us where we were.
That's it.
And it wasn't, and I never felt like, something about psychologists is that I feel like they're being psychologists to me, and I'm like, here they go, about to do it. I never felt like you did that to me. This is the psychologist trick. I felt, now that I understand, I felt like it was the parent, me, grounding myself to be parenting myself, to get my child from doing something that I know that he wants to continue to do, and saying, it's okay. I know you're freaking pissed right now, and it's okay for you to be freaking pissed right now. Mommy's freaking pissed that you're doing this right now. And we're going to just be freaking pissed together. And then now you're happy out of nowhere because you're two. And that's just how 2-year-olds operate. So, yeah. But thank you, Dr. Gabe. Tell us, where can we find you? Where can we find your greatness, you as a person who has been on OWN and Dr. Oz, not Dr. Oz, the doctors, and so many different places. You as a professor, you as a literal doctor that sees patients, that has his own practice. You as a, how can we find you?
I'm in Santa Monica, but online, you can go to askdrgabe.com. That's my website. And the new one is probably going to be up next week, so forgive me for the old site, but the new one is pretty much fire. I'm really liking it. And Twitter, everything, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all Ask Dr. Gabe, AskDrGabe. Of course, you can email me too, drgabe@mac.com or drgabe@askdrgabe. Or actually my Gmail, my full name, Dr. Gabriel Crenshaw @gmail. You know, and I'm right inside of Monica, you know, and I'm here. Baby, I'm here for it. I'm here for all that. And
Oh, yeah, we know you about it.
I'm here for all of it, man. And I hope people, there's a resurgence now happening with light girls. And I was in that on OWN with Bill Duke. And I'm telling you, it is really worth everybody seeing again. Um, and not just because I'm in it, but it's got some really great stuff and a lot of things that we talked about now. Um, because we don't want anybody to be left out. That light, dark skin thing that Black people have, and it's not exclusive to Black. Jews have it, Latinos have it, even white people have it. The
Oh,
whiter your
yeah.
the more blonde your hair is. And the part that I left out, because I forgot to say it when Bill was doing the thing about Lonnie Anderson. It's like white women go through this too. And Lonnie Anderson was this big time actress in the 70s and 80s. And I saw an interview where she was like, she had an ethnic look. She came to Hollywood with dark hair. She became a platinum blonde like Marilyn Monroe. People don't know who that is, but like these, like Nicki Minaj has that platinum blonde hair too. But Lonnie Anderson, a white woman, was told, "You're too ethnic looking and you'll never make it in Hollywood, even though you're white, because you don't look completely white. Your ethnicity is questionable and ambiguous." So she was with her girlfriends, and they were like, "We're never gonna toe the line, the Hollywood line. We're gonna stick to who we are. We're gonna dye our hair and become this white symbol of what beauty is. We're white women, but we come in all different colors, shapes, and sizes, right?"
Mm-hmm.
Until she couldn't get a job. And she finally did it, dyed her hair and got that great gig at WKRP and went on from there. And it was great. And she got back with her girlfriends in their girlfriend circle. And they were like, "Lonnie, what happened?" And she said, "You know what? I could sit here in this circle and we could all be broke and never doing anything that we need to do. Or I could dye my hair and be the white woman they want me to be. I still know who I am." Well, however you want to slice it, she knew that there was a line drawn in the sand. She wanted to work, she crossed it. What does it do? Perpetuate that symbol of white gold standard beauty. Black people, everything that we've ever done in this country, we had to do in blackface. I'm very proud of the work that we have done because we had to do it in blackface. We couldn't pass like Jews could. We couldn't pass like Italians could. We couldn't pass like Irish people did. They all came together under one umbrella called WHITE. We have had to do our stuff as BLACK. Can't tell me we're not powerful. We're golden, baby.
Ashe. With COVID putting a damper on connecting and networking, I had to find a new way to business card. That's why I went with Link. My Link card allows me to share my podcasts, social media, websites, or whatever else about me while still keeping it safe and social distancing. The card's NFC capability allows me to share all of that in just a tap of the phone. And the QR code on the back lands people to a custom page that I've modified for Black Lives Matter or COVID updates. In fact, you can listen to this very episode up on there now. So say goodbye to handing out your old business cards and say hello to Link. And because you're a part of the Speak Free fam, enjoy a 15% off discount by using Poetry Prose at checkout. That's visiting linkapp.com and typing in Poetry Prose. That's LINQAPP.com and typing in POERTYPROSE when you get like me and grab yourself a new way to business card. It's a wrap. If you like this episode and want to hear more like it, then don't forget to follow the show, Poetry, Prose, and Politics, at The Political Poet everywhere you are social. That's THAPOLITICALPOET. Everywhere you are social. This show is also aired on KTQA-LP 95.3 FM Tacoma, so you can always catch me over there on their airwaves, or you can listen to me wherever you stream your favorite podcast. Until next time. catch you later.